let's start with that first quarter. First drive, Iowa methodically goes down the field. And on the first drive, I believe Gronowski had at least 2, if not a third, horrific pass where he's not even close. I mean, not even in the same. If there's a playing target practice, I mean, he's hitting the gal holding her baby in row 5. I mean, he's nowhere close to bullseye or even on the board. Right. That happened, and of course, you had a bad toss to Washington. I believe it was second drive. He almost fumbled. It was a horrible toss by. I'm not trying to be overcritical, but go back and watch the tape, Don. Maybe you didn't notice that from your seat, but that was almost. It was like almost a shot put toss to Terrell Washington. He has to come back to his back hip to catch it. Kind of fumbles with it, grabs it. By the way, Terrell Washington played fun. I was really impressed with that young man today. Iowa loses Kamari Moulton to the locker room. Had his right side of the jersey cut. Ended up back in a sling. There were a couple of calls that were interesting, but just overall in that first quarter, Don, really odd start for Mark Gronowski. So I'm going to ask you the $1 million question. Was it rust and jitters in his first game as a Hawkeye? Do you think there's something going on health-wise with that shoulder, with the hand? What is it?
I don't think there are any physical issues. I think, just all I'm doing is giving you my opinion, sitting in row 22, section whatever it is, I forget, good seats. I think it was simply the case, he's such a conscientious person. I think he wanted to do well so much that I think it honestly affected his play. My guess is, after that first quarter, Tim might have had a meeting along these lines. Listen, Mark, we already know you know how to play. These people are going to love you regardless of what happens in this football game. So just relax and play. You don't work football, you play football. So go play. And play like you know how to play. You've had a lot of big moments in big games, and you heard me say, and it's the truth, there's a hell of a lot more pressure playing for the national championship. There should be more pressure playing for the national championship than there was playing against Albany today. But I think the fact you got 70,000 people there, they're all on your side, and he wanted to do well so much, I think it actually affected his game. I do. I don't have any other explanation.
Well, is that what you just said? I mean, I guess it's sort of theoretical or whatever, but is that almost comforting? Should that almost be comforting, reassuring to Hawkeye fans that, like, it wasn't, you didn't want to see it, but we got it out of the way? Like, he's going to settle down because that's not who he is. I think the fear is this is who he is. And we know he's not. We know this isn't who he is. We've seen too much evidence. You called games for the Missouri Valley and for ESPN with him, leading team. They put up 15. They scored this Albany program 59-0 2 years ago, and he had like 330 all-purpose yards in that game. He had like 4 incompletions all day. This is not who Mark Gronowski is, and I cannot accept the idea that his shoulder surgery that he had earlier in the year and he's been recovering from is the culprit at hand here.
No, I don't believe that either.
So that should be reassuring to people, correct, Don? We should expect him to
play more between his ears, to be honest with you.
Say that one more time.
Well, it's kind of like having to make a 4-foot putt for birdie. It's hard to do.
But you got to do it if you're in the big leagues. You got to do it if you're
but if you're playing once a week like I do.
Mark's not playing football once a week, Don.
No, you're right. I don't know how else to explain it. It was a head scratcher for me too. I thought, well, maybe here's the disadvantage we all have. We haven't seen the video. I know you saw the TV copy and there were a lot of replays and all that stuff, but it's still hard to tell what Mark was seeing until you get both angles of every play. I think that listeners may not know this. There's one camera angle from the press box and there's another camera angle from the end zone. And when you have both, and they're back to back.
Yeah.
So you get 2 looks at the same play every time, every play. And I think probably there were times when there simply wasn't anybody open. You saw some of those snaps where he simply couldn't find anyone. And I'll admit, sitting in row 22, of course, it's hard to be looking at the quarterback and then looking downfield at the same time. It's not like I'm looking over his shoulder, so it's hard to know for sure what he's seeing. But there were times when, and I think it's safe to say, let's give some credit to Albany. I think they did a much better job defending the pass than they did defending the run. Because there were times it appeared that there was no one open.
Okay. Well, but that should also be concerning to some fans. That's going to be concerning to some fans that there wasn't that much separation. Now, there were plays early, especially in that first quarter, like the Sam Phillips. I mean, he was wide open in the end zone. Number 2 was wide open in the end zone where Mark just underthrew him and it looked like the ball slipped out of his hands. You have the screen pass to Terrell Washington that was just a little floater that went way over his head. You had a couple of ground balls, dirt balls as well. So there were plays where Jacob Gill split off down the sideline on one play, broke off down that boundary closest to the I guess it would be closest to the non-press box side of the field, the east side, if you will. So there were times separation-wise where guys were open. I know you don't have the tape, you haven't looked back, and it's hard to tell in the TV copy. I mean, I went back and rewound a couple of times. I can't tell. I don't know what's going on out there. But especially early, talking about that first quarter, Don, how much of the time was it? How many plays would you say there just was nothing out there, and what percentage of plays did you see separation from receivers?
Well, my recall, maybe they were all in the first quarter. I can think back maybe on the first 2 drives or maybe on the first drive. I can't remember. Most of what you would classify as a horrible play that came early, right? I can remember 3 horrible plays. Maybe there were more than 3. You just talked about 2 of them, I think. But the real head scratches were early. And then the impression I got, the coaches decided, you know what, it'd be nice if we got a lot of balance to our offense. But why don't we take the safer approach? Let's just run the ball down their throat and be done with it.
That's what I said earlier. I said about 30 minutes ago, Don. It seemed like Kirk just said, let's just get out of Dodge. We're not concerned with prepping for next week. We'll do that in practice. We're just going to get out of here.
Yeah. But it is a concern that we threw 15 times for 48 yards, whatever it was. Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to give you – so here are the official stats from Mark Gronowski. So Hank Brown, by the way, threw 1 pass. We'll get to that. Mark Gronowski, 8 of 15 through the air, 44 yards, 1 touchdown, had 11 carries for 39 yards and a rushing touchdown. And, boy, they worked him on the ground, Don. I mean, they weren't afraid to run.
That was another head scratcher for me. The guy I was sitting next to, he said, do you think they have a lot of confidence in Brown? I said, well, by virtue of the fact that they're running Mark, designed plays for him carrying the ball, I would say they must have great confidence in Brown because they're not worried about putting Mark's health in jeopardy. I was shocked that he ran the ball so often on designed plays. I'm not talking about a flush. I'm talking about a Q draw or something like that. I remember one time he ran the ball on first down, and I was just shocked. I thought, well, I understand running with the ball maybe in a critical down. They did it to us, matter of fact. Their quarterback kept the call on 3rd and short, kept the ball, simply because it'd be logical to think that the ball's going to the running back. And, of course, that makes it more deceptive when the quarterback ends up with the ball. Typically, you run the quarterback. You don't really want to jeopardize his health that much. So if you're going to run him, you don't run him on first down. You run him on a critical down. 3rd and short, 3rd and medium, 3rd and long, whatever. But a critical down. And we didn't do that. Or maybe it's in the red zone that you're running, to pick up an extra blocker. Let the quarterback carry the ball. And they'll think that they're sound in defending the box. And yet, when you declare the quarterback as the runner, that gives you, of course, one more blocker.
And just to clarify what you're talking about for people, because I could see some of the minds churning when you say that. On 3rd down, you are putting your quarterback, quote unquote, at risk because he becomes a running back. He's got to get yardage. So we saw, I think it was in the Iowa State game. Was it Iowa State or was it a different game I was watching? A quarterback, no, it was Albany today. The quarterback sliding too soon. And when you give yourself up, it's not where you end up on your butt. It's when you begin the process of sliding. So on third down, yeah, you're not going to be sliding because you're trying to get that extra yardage. But what you're saying, Don, is they were running him up the middle on early downs. And
Right.
he's not in a position to slide and give himself up.
Right.
All right, folks. We had Ryan on the line earlier, and he got booted off. So let's get Ryan back in here. Ryan, thank you for getting back on the Iowa Smokehouse line. Do we got your audio this time?
I hope so.
Yep, we got you. We got you loud and clear, sir.
Hi. Good evening, gentlemen. Coach Patterson. Good to see
Ryan, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Also, just wanted to say, Corey, that bacon Iowa Smokehouse, those bacon sticks, absolutely.
You messed up my promo. You messed up my promo because I was leading straight from Iowa Smokehouse into Ryan because I know you're a big Iowa Smokehouse guy, and so you feel free.
That's why I had to plug them now because I knew I kind of screwed you up right there.
No, I know you are a regular customer of Iowa Smokehouse, and I know they appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Couple thoughts. I'm certainly not one who's going to complain about running the ball, especially when you're at just under a 6-yard clip. The running back room looks absolutely outstanding. A little surprised Jazz didn't get in there until the very end, but I thought literally every one of them looked outstanding. Moulton looked good in the 3 carries he did have. I hope he's going to be okay. My concern, if you go back to, I don't know, maybe up through the Nate Stanley era, we were much closer to a 50-50 split pass to run. And lately, it's dramatically skewed towards run. Today it was 77%. I believe it was 53 out of 69 plays were run plays.
Well, part of that's because they're running the ball well.
Right.
They didn't run the ball well under Brian, so they had to pass. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I do, but I also know a lot of those teams that were so dramatically skewed to run, average to good teams would just stack the box, force us to throw, and we frankly weren't very good at it. And I don't think Mark Gronowski came here with the idea of not to some degree being a throwing quarterback. So I'm kind of going to think that this just might be an anomaly, jitters, kind of like what Coach Patterson said.
I agree.
I will say I am worried about stacking the box big time because for as good as our running backs are, we've seen plenty of games against better competition where we struggle to get 100, 150 yards of offense when we're, running the ball at two yards a clip and not throwing the ball well. And I'm hoping that those days are behind us. What are your thoughts?
Don, you want to address that?
It's too early to know. Certainly we couldn't judge about it today. I will say this. Albany, I thought represented themselves very well. Let me back up. They didn't defend the run well. We did run the ball down their throat. If you run for 300 yards, you're going to be hard-pressed to ever win a game if you give up 300 on the ground. But I'll tell you one thing. I was impressed with their quarterback, who incidentally transferred in from Buffalo. He wasn't good enough to play for Buffalo, but I think the least of their worries is quarterback. But I think that young man played well.
He did.
Yeah, he did. He had some nice balls, and I thought he represented himself well for a game in which he hadn't played in quite some time. So, and let me just address too, Ryan, you're talking about just the way this game transpired. And Don's absolutely right. I mean, we all noticed it, right? There was a point after those first couple of drives with Mark, and especially after Albany went up 7-3, it was that next drive. I was just like, to heck with it. Like, you know, we're just going to run the ball down their throat. Forget it. Now, I will say this. I get it, and I think to some extent it's the right call. And I'm not one to question Kirk, right? I mean, who am I, right? But I'll do it anyways because this is what I do. I do think it's odd, Don, that you put Hank Brown in for basically the entire fourth quarter and you give him one pass. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. When you're up 27-7, why? Well, we have this conversation every year. So it can't be Tim Lester. That can't be Tim Lester because Brian did the same thing. If it's the coordinator, then they're both doing the same thing and we're insane. Why, if you're going to put in Hank Brown, would you not give him the opportunity to throw the ball around the yard? Can you answer that question?
Well, I know what some of our fans would say. They would say, well, Iowa doesn't want a quarterback controversy, so we're not going to give him a chance to outshine Mark. That's probably over here in some of these texts right now, I guess.
Is that, you honestly believe that there could be legs to that theory, that the coaching staff?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. We were just
the reason.
Ending the game, we were almost always ahead of the chains, so there wasn't much need to throw.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm trying to figure out Jack Veers in the chat. I appreciate you being a member, but I'm trying to figure out where this is coming from. Have I said it all during this show, Ryan? You've been watching since the beginning. Did I say at any point in this show that the O-line was not good?
No, not at all.
Yeah, he said this several times that I said the O-line was underwhelming. I did not say that, and if I said that, I misspoke.
You didn't even mention the O-line.
Yeah, the O-line was really good. Make that very clear. The O-line was excellent. How could you complain about the O-line? I think pass pro and rush offense, Don.
We clearly owned the line of scrimmage with our offense.
Yeah.
Last thing is I wouldn't get too concerned with Iowa State putting 55 up. Campbell definitely coaches differently than Kirk. He's going to throw and continue to throw, where Kirk, I agree with everything you say. He more or less will become risk adverse. He knows he can win the game by running the ball, but most importantly, our defense was, after that first quarter, was very much so spot on. I think they barely had any yardage in the second half at all. I am a little concerned, though. Corey kind of touched upon it earlier with our cornerback play. Overall, I was very pleased with the defense. Much better than I thought it would be, especially at this point. I thought the defense was much better than I thought it would be. But corner is still something where against a more experienced, better quarterback, I'm still a little nervous there. I'm curious to see if that Barrios guy will get a look sooner than later. But other than that,
you said that about the defense, Ryan. Real quick, Don, how do you respond to that? Because I actually thought the defense was not quite as good as I expected. Like, I thought Albany moved the ball better in that first half, especially than I expected. I'm not saying you're wrong, Ryan. It's refreshing to hear that perspective. But I know there were a lot of people on Twitter during this game, as there always are Twitter. There were a lot of people on social media complaining about the defense. And
I said after the first quarter, though.
Okay.
That first quarter was a different story, but they really tightened it up.
And they did. It was brought up earlier by a caller, Don. Phil brought more pressure in this game than he typically does.
True.
So, Ryan, thank you.
Corey, if we win against Iowa State, while you're shaving your beard, why don't you shave your head while you're at it?
Well, I'll tell you what, James Rowden just threw in a $50 donation on Venmo. So, James, he's donated twice tonight. He's trying to get this to happen. And now I'm thinking I didn't set the mark high enough because we're over halfway there. I think we need like $88 or something close to that.
Wow.
I might come back a smooth man next week, Don.
I'll just leave you guys with this. While I think there's a lot of valid concerns, regarding the passing and how we started and what have you, quarterback play, I will say I think the Iowa State game, we're going to surprise a little bit. We're going to be a lot better than people think. Iowa State doesn't usually play us like world beaters either. The game is usually a one-score game. Right. Probably will be this time. It would not shock me at all if we win 23-20.
It wouldn't. Well, but they did beat Iowa 2 of the last 3 years. I mean, this is reality. They have beaten Iowa 2 of the last 3 years, and this looks like a better team than either of those teams were, and maybe a worse Iowa team than those Iowa teams were. I'm not saying it is. I still think this Iowa team is better, but I'm just saying based on what we saw this week.
I believe Iowa had a streak going up to last year.
Well, but I'm just saying they've lost 2 of the last 3. Now, they have won in Jack Trice every chance they've had since 2000. Like, was it 2011 or something like that? Something like that, somewhere in there. Anyways, we'll get to it later. But okay. Yeah, good stuff, Ryan. No, I appreciate you calling in, sir. Thank you for battling the audio for us. And
23-20, Drew Stevens is the difference.
Okay, I'll take
it.
Thanks, Ryan. Go Hawks. All right. Danielle says, please bring back Sully. Sully's battling injury. He didn't even play today for Tulane. And by the way, Don, man, I'll tell you what, this Big Ten Conference has not looked good week 1. I mean, they're all over the place. You got Wisconsin, like with a pathetic crowd, worst crowd since 92. You have Minnesota struggling against your old Bulls. No offense to the Blue Bulls up in Buffalo. You have Northwestern getting absolutely thrashed against Tulane. All right. Nebraska squeaked by Cincinnati. Solid win, but not a great one. That was a home game. So, anyways, Big Ten's been up and down this week, and then Iowa struggled at times today. So.
And yet, as I recall, the Big Ten final scores I saw a while ago, won 15 and lost 1. I realized pretty convenient scheduling to get that done. What would be the best win of the weekend so far? Who would it be? I guess you got to say Ohio State. Huh?
Well, it'd be Ohio State over Texas and then Nebraska over Cincinnati. And there's a big drop-off there, right? Yeah. A big drop-off. And I didn't watch that whole Ohio State game, but it was a low-scoring grinder.
Well, honestly, the way I felt, I did watch that game closely, seemed to me that Texas, I guarantee you the Texas fans feel this way. Why in God's name did we not turn Arch loose earlier in the game? They were ultra-conservative for 3 quarters, found they're down 14, and all of a sudden they're throwing the ball all over the lot, and most of them are working. Yeah. So the obvious question is, why didn't you open things up sooner? It seemed as if Texas was playing not to lose.
Right.
For the longest time.
All right. We're going to take a call, and then we're going to hit a quick ad break. All right. Because we've been on here for an hour and a half. So let's get to our next caller, our Iowa Smokehouse call line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach Don Patterson. Who's on the line? Hello, you're on the air. Been waiting on hold for I don't want to hang up on the guy because and on hold for 45 minutes. Welcome to Iowa Postgame with Coach Don Patterson. You are on the air. Oh, you know what, Don? You know what I've done before that's worked? Wait. Beep. You're on the air with Coach Patterson. Didn't work. All right, call us back. I'll try to get you up in the order. Let's go to our next Iowa Smokehouse caller. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach Don Patterson. Who's on the line?
I think I'm going to turn this up here. Can you hear me okay?
At least we hear him. Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, it's Taco Howard.
Howard, how are you, buddy?
Oh, I'm all right. Just been fishing and camping this weekend.
Okay.
But okay. The game was okay, I figure. Yes, and
Howard, we lose
Can
you?
you not hear me?
Nope.
Oh, there you are.
I
Okay.
got you. Yeah.
Okay. I thought I lost you there for a
Yeah,
minute.
you did for
Well,
a second.
anyway,
I got
anyways, the game was okay. I go back to the people why why we play these games. This is why we play these games. We kind of weaker opponent. We make mistakes, iron out things, and get things going because we got a new quarterback.
Yep.
New defense, and also, what I don't. Maybe you said it or anything. We had no idea what Albany was bringing because it's an all new staff. We didn't know what scheme they were running or anything. They were kind of set people back a little bit on their heels. And we had to kind of run around like squawking like chickens, and had to get things under control. And I think they got the things under control very well. And plus, you there?
Yeah. Well, I was just saying, with how they played in the first quarter, especially, Don, I'm kind of glad they didn't play a North Dakota or a South Dakota. And by the way, Kansas State, Hawkeye Howard, Kansas State survived a scare. Kansas State defeats North Dakota 34-31. So it took everything the Wildcats had to come back from Ireland and squeak by a solid program in that division. And that's why I'm impressed with what Iowa State did. I understand North Dakota and South Dakota are different programs, Don. But to go from that Ireland game, hard-fought competition, all that jet lag, you come back here, and then you just thrash a solid Missouri Valley Conference team. I'm impressed by that. I don't care if it's 50-some points. I don't care what the score is. The way they won, it was convincing. So, but anyways, go ahead, Howard.
Well, here's what also I'm thinking. We're not showing our hands. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, they know we're going to run. Load the box. Load it up, and then we're going to start. Then I think the asking will come in the hand and start pitching over their head and see what happens. So I'm just believing that this is in Lester are setting up Iowa State, saying load the box, see what happens. Okay. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, Don, what do you think about that? Is Iowa setting Iowa State up for trying to load the box and then you hit them over the top?
Well, you do recall me saying the other day, my hope would be that we gain confidence with how we can play. We get to play a lot of backups, and we were able to win the game with a bunch of base plays, right? You heard me say that. I think it's safe to say we didn't give many new wrinkles in the passing game. I think that's a lot of our base pass offense that we ran today. And you might question why we didn't expand it to include some new plays, but obviously if we win the game comfortably without showing them, that's a good thing. So I think you're going to see things that we unroll against Iowa State that you certainly didn't see today. I'll be willing to bet on it.
Also, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Howard.
Well, Mark has a lot of pressure on that. That young man's got a lot of pressure.
Yep.
He's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders.
And he had it at South Dakota State. He had it at South Dakota State too. He'll get through that.
Yeah. I think once he gets settled in, I think things come in. I think next week he'll get settled in, and I think we're going to all be surprised.